The Imperial scout ship Star Seeker slowed down as it entered the edges of an unremarkable yellow star system. Captain James Miller stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the main screen. This was supposed to be a routine mission. Find the primitive civilization that their long-range sensors had detected and prepare them for integration into the Empire. "Sir, there's something strange ahead," said Tom, the sensor operator. His fingers danced across the glowing control panel. "I'm picking up artificial structures orbiting the 8th planet." Miller raised an eyebrow. That was unusual for a pre-space civilization. "Show me." The main screen zoomed in on several massive satellites orbiting the ice giant. They were sleek, dark, and clearly advanced. But what caught everyone's attention was the massive holographic display floating between them. "Warning! Restricted area. No entry." The message repeated itself in over 50 languages, including all major Imperial dialects. Below it floated the image of a blue and green planet, clearly the third world in the system, surrounded by a red circle with a line through it. "Well," Miller said, scratching his head, "that's new." The bridge crew exchanged confused looks. In the Empire's 1,000-year history of expanding and absorbing new civilizations, they had never encountered one that put up "keep out" signs in space. "Sir," Tom called out again, his voice slightly shaky, "I'm detecting similar warning arrays around every major planet and asteroid belt in the system." Miller frowned. This wasn't in the manual. The Empire's records showed this system, labeled Sol 3 in their database, had only achieved radio technology a century ago. They shouldn't have anything in space, let alone system-wide warning systems. "Send a message to Ambassador Smith's ship," Miller ordered. "They need to know about this before they arrive." But before his communications officer could act, a new ship appeared on their sensors. It simply materialized. No hyperspace window, no warp signature, nothing. One moment empty space, the next moment a vessel twice the size of their scout ship hung there, its hull a deep matte black that seemed to swallow light. "Incoming transmission," the comm officer announced, trying to keep his voice steady. The main screen lit up, showing a woman in a simple but elegant uniform. No medals, no rank insignia, just clean lines and practical design. "This is Earth Border Security," she said calmly. "You have entered a restricted system. Please acknowledge the warning signs and turn back." Miller drew himself up. He was an Imperial captain after all. "This is Captain James Miller of the Imperial scout ship Star Seeker. We are here to prepare your world for integration into the Galactic Empire. Surely you don't mean to reject the Empire's protection and benefits." The woman's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes made Miller feel like a child who had said something foolish. "Captain Miller," she said, "your Empire's offer is noted but unnecessary. Earth maintains its isolation by choice, not limitation. This is your first and only warning. Turn back." Miller felt sweat on his forehead. Everything about this was wrong. The ship that appeared from nowhere. The woman's quiet confidence. The way she dismissed the Empire like it was a door-to-door salesman. "I have my orders," he said, trying to sound firm. "Ambassador Smith's ship will arrive shortly to begin integration procedures. This is standard protocol." "No," the woman said simply, "it will not." Suddenly, every system on the Star Seeker went dark. The engines died. Life support switched to emergency backup. Even their artificial gravity flickered. The woman's image remained on their screen, somehow still working despite everything else being dead. "Your systems will reboot in 30 minutes, by which time you will be back in Imperial space. Please inform Ambassador Smith that his ship will be turned back as well. Earth is not accepting visitors or applications for membership at this time." The screen went dark, and Miller felt his ship beginning to move. Something was pushing them back the way they came, gentle but unstoppable, like being caught in a river's current. In the darkness of his powerless bridge, Miller realized he would have to report this to Imperial Command. Somehow, he didn't think they would take it well. He also had a feeling this was just the beginning of a much bigger problem. Ambassador Robert Smith stood on the bridge of his flagship, Imperial Dawn, reading Captain Miller's report for the third time. His thin fingers tapped against the datapad screen in irritation. No primitive world had ever rejected the Empire's generous offer of membership. It was unthinkable. "The warning signs are just a bluff," he announced to his crew. "These humans probably found some old technology and think they can scare us away. Set course for the third planet." His captain, a veteran named Peter Brown, cleared his throat. "Sir, with respect, Captain Miller's report suggests their technology is unusual." Smith waved his hand dismissively. "A few tricks with holograms and power disruption. Nothing our main fleet can't handle." He straightened his elaborate diplomatic robes. "They'll change their tune when they see real Imperial power." The Imperial Dawn, along with its escort of 3 battleships, pushed past the warning signs and deeper into the solar system. Smith smiled as they passed the red planet without incident. "You see, all show, no substance." Suddenly, every screen on the bridge lit up with the same message. "Final Lulu Arning. Turn back, you know." Smith opened his mouth to give another order, but the words never came out. A ripple passed through space itself, like a wave moving through water. When it touched the Imperial ships, everything electronic simply stopped. The backup systems didn't kick in. The emergency power stayed dark. Even their personal devices died. The only things still working were the life support and artificial gravity, as if someone had deliberately chosen to keep them alive and comfortable. Through the viewport, Smith watched in horror as a massive ship appeared beside them. Unlike the sleek and ornate Imperial vessels, this ship was angular and dark, more like a floating fortress than a proper spaceship. It had no visible weapons, but somehow that made it more intimidating. A voice filled the bridge, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. "This is Admiral Jane Thompson of Earth Defense Force. Your ships are now under our control." A woman appeared in the middle of the bridge, not on a screen, but as a solid hologram. She wore the same simple uniform as the border guard who had stopped Captain Miller. Her gray hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her expression was one of practiced patience. "Ambassador Smith," she said, nodding to him, "your presence here violates multiple warnings and our explicitly stated wishes." "Why?" Smith drew himself up to his full height. "Earth is within Imperial space. By law, you must be evaluated for membership. Your isolation endangers the stability of the region." Thompson's laugh was surprisingly warm. "Your nearest colony is 50 light-years away. As for stability," she gestured, and a holographic map appeared, showing hundreds of small dots around Earth's solar system. "These are the threats we've quietly eliminated from this region over the past century. Pirates, hostile species, even a few extinction-level asteroids headed for your worlds. You're welcome, by the way." Smith's mouth opened and closed several times before he found his voice. That's impossible. Our sensors would have detected." "Your sensors," Thompson interrupted gently, "detect what we allow them to detect. Earth chose isolation long ago, Ambassador. Not out of fear, but out of responsibility. We watch, we protect, and we are not interested in your empire's bureaucracy." She turned to Captain Brown. "Your ships will be towed back to Imperial space. No harm will come to any of your crew. But let me be perfectly clear. The next Imperial vessel that ignores our warnings will be transported directly to the other side of the galaxy. The paperwork for that would be unfortunate." Smith felt his face grow hot with anger and embarrassment. "The Empire will not stand for this. We will return with a proper fleet." Thompson's hologram was already fading, but her smile remained. "No, Ambassador, you won't. Because now you know. It's not that we can't join your empire. It's that we choose not to. For your own good." As their ships began moving backward through space, Smith realized he would have to explain this failure to the Imperial Council. Somehow, he didn't think they would understand that Earth wasn't rejecting the Empire out of weakness, but out of something far more worrying: pity. Dr. Marcus Wells sat in his dimly lit office in the Imperial Research Center, surrounded by floating holographic displays. Each screen showed different pieces of Earth's history that his team had managed to collect. As the Empire's lead researcher, he had been tasked with finding Earth's weakness. Instead, he was finding something far more interesting. "Computer, show me Earth's radio transmissions from 200 years ago," he said, rubbing his tired eyes. The screen shifted, displaying thousands of old broadcasts. His assistant, Anna White, walked in with 2 cups of hot drink. "Found anything useful?" she asked, placing 1 cup on his desk. Marcus pointed to a series of numbers. "Look at this. 200 years ago, Earth's technology was primitive. Combustion engines, basic computers, simple rockets. But then," he waved his hand, and the displays showed newer data. Something changed. Their technology took a completely different path than ours. "Different how?" Anna asked, leaning closer to the screens. "We built our civilization on atomic power, plasma drives, and artificial gravity fields," Marcus explained. "But Earth, they somehow learned to manipulate space-time itself. Their ships don't move through space. They move space around them." He stood up and walked to the largest display, which showed a timeline of Earth's development. "And here's the strangest part. They knew about us long before we found them. Look at these old transmissions. Their entertainment broadcasts included stories about galactic empires and space travel. They were preparing their people for the existence of aliens centuries ago." Anna frowned. "But why hide? Why not join the Empire when they were ready?" Marcus pulled up another file, a partially decoded transmission from Earth's defense network. "Because they're afraid of what their technology would do to younger civilizations. Imagine if we suddenly gained the ability to reshape reality itself. Would we use it wisely?" The door to his office slid open, and Commander Richard Green from Imperial Intelligence walked in. "Dr. Wells, please tell me you found something we can use against these humans." Marcus shook his head. "Sir, I don't think you understand. Earth isn't our enemy. They've been quietly protecting us for centuries." He pointed to another screen showing unexplained phenomena throughout Imperial space. All these mysterious disappearances of pirate fleets, unexplained deflections of comets heading toward our colonies. That was Earth. "Nonsense," Green snapped. "No civilization could be that advanced without us noticing." "That's just it," Marcus said excitedly. "They wanted us not to notice. Look at this pattern." He pulled up a map of Imperial space, with thousands of small dots marking unexplained events. They've been like parents watching their children play in a garden, quietly removing dangers before we even noticed them. Anna's eyes widened as she saw the pattern. They'd been protecting all of us, not just their own world. Green's face turned red with anger. "This is unacceptable. The Empire protects its citizens, not some hidden civilization that thinks it's better than us." Marcus turned to face the commander. "With respect, sir, the evidence suggests they are better than us. Not because they're stronger, but because they've had all this power and chosen to use it only to protect others. They could have conquered us centuries ago. Instead, they chose to be our guardians. The Council won't accept this," Green warned. "They're already planning a response to this insult." Marcus looked at his screens again, at the centuries of evidence showing Earth's quiet influence. "Sir, I don't think we should." But Green was already storming out of the office. Marcus and Anna shared a worried look. "They're going to do something stupid, aren't they?" Anna asked quietly. Marcus nodded, turning back to his research. "Yes, and I think Earth is expecting it. The question is, what are they going to teach us when we do?" Outside his office window, the Imperial capital's 3 suns were setting, casting long shadows across the city. Somewhere out there, Earth was watching, waiting to see what its children would do next. Marcus just hoped the Empire's pride wouldn't lead them to learn their lesson the hard way. High Commander William Stone stood at the head of the Imperial Council chamber, looking down at the gathered leaders of the Empire's military and political forces. The massive room was silent as the last images from Dr. Wells' research faded from the central display. "This is unacceptable," Stone said, his voice echoing off the marble walls. "A single world cannot dictate terms to the Empire. We rule 10,000 worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. We will not be treated like children." Around the circular table, 50 council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The evidence they had just seen was troubling. Earth's strange technology, its centuries of hidden influence, its quiet protection of imperial space. Dr. Marcus Wells stood at the other end of the chamber, his hands clasped behind his back. "High Commander, please consider what we've learned. Earth's technology isn't just advanced, it's different. They don't think about space and time the way we do. All the more reason to bring them under imperial control," said General Mary Roberts, her medals gleaming in the chamber's bright light. "Imagine what we could do with their technology." Marcus shook his head. "You don't understand. They've had this power for centuries. They could have conquered us at any time. Instead, they chose to protect us, to let us grow on our own." Stone's fist came down hard on the table. "Enough. We are not some primitive species needing protection. We are the Empire." He turned to General Roberts. "How long until the fleet is ready?" 20 hours, sir. We've gathered 500 ships from across Imperial space, the largest fleet ever assembled." Marcus stepped forward. "Sir, please, if you do this, you'll force them to—" "To what?" Stone interrupted. "To show their true power." "Good. Let them try to stop 500 ships at once. Let's see what these humans are really capable of." The council members began nodding in agreement. The Empire's pride had been wounded, and now they wanted to strike back. Admiral John Cooper, an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, spoke up from his seat. "Has anyone considered that they might be letting us gather this fleet? That they might want us to try this?" The chamber fell silent again. On the central display, a map showed hundreds of Imperial ships moving toward the rally point. It was indeed the largest fleet in Imperial history, nearly a quarter of their total military strength. "It doesn't matter," Stone declared. "We will remind Earth that the galaxy operates under Imperial law. No single world can stand against us." Marcus tried one last time. "Sir, in all our history, Earth has never acted aggressively toward us. They've only protected and guided. If we do this, we risk—" "Dismissed, Dr. Wells," Stone cut him off. "The Council has made its decision. Return to your research center and prepare to study whatever technology we capture." Marcus looked around the chamber, seeing the determination in the council members' faces. They weren't going to listen. Their pride wouldn't let them. As he walked out of the chamber, he heard Stone giving orders for the attack. 500 ships, over 1 million Imperial citizens, all being sent to attack a world that had only ever tried to protect them. In his office later that night, Marcus looked out at the capital city's lights. Somewhere out there, Earth was watching. He wondered what they thought of their children now, as the Empire prepared to throw its biggest tantrum yet. His computer beeped with a message from Anna. "Fleet launches in 19 hours. What do you think Earth will do?" Marcus typed back a simple reply. "They'll do what good parents always do. Let us learn our lesson the hard way." He just hoped the Empire would survive its own pride. 500 Imperial ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. They formed a massive wall of metal and energy, stretching across space like a floating city. On the bridge of the flagship Imperial Justice, High Commander Stone watched the tactical display with satisfaction. "No sign of Earth's defenses," reported Captain Lisa Reed. "The warning buoys are still there, but otherwise, the system appears empty." Stone smiled. As expected, their previous shows of force were just tricks. Begin the advance. The massive fleet moved forward as one, their engines creating a sea of blue fire against the black of space. They passed the warning signs without any response from Earth. "See," Stone said to his officers, "all their talk of advanced technology, and they hide when faced with real power." The fleet passed the orbit of Mars. Still nothing. No ships, no defenses, not even a message. The tension on the bridge grew with each passing minute. They were halfway to Earth when it happened. First, every star seemed to brighten for a moment. Then, a wave of something passed through the fleet. It wasn't energy or matter. It was as if space itself shivered. "Sir," Captain Reed called out, "we're losing power." But not like before. She was right. Instead of going dark, each ship's systems remained online, but nothing responded to commands. Weapons wouldn't fire. Engines wouldn't change course. Even the artificial gravity stayed perfectly normal. "What's happening?" Stone demanded. The main screen lit up, showing Admiral Jane Thompson sitting in what looked like a garden. Behind her, Earth was visible through a massive window. "Hello again," she said calmly. "I see you brought friends this time." Stone's face turned red with anger. "Return control of our ships immediately. This is an act of war." Thompson sighed like a tired parent. "No, High Commander. This is an act of teaching. General Anderson, if you would." The stars dimmed again. When they returned to normal, Stone's mouth fell open in shock. Through the viewport, he could see his fleet was no longer near Earth. Instead, they were floating above a completely different planet. On the main screen, a second window opened showing General Thomas Anderson, a man with kind eyes and gray hair. "Welcome to the Andromeda galaxy," Anderson said. "Specifically, you're now orbiting a planet we call Classroom 1. Don't worry, we've moved you here through a controlled space-time fold. Your ships are perfectly fine." Stone stared in disbelief. "That's impossible. Andromeda is millions of light years away." "Distance," Thompson said gently, "is a matter of perspective. Now, please watch carefully." On a nearby moon, something began to take shape. It looked like a city, rising from the rocky surface in seconds. Buildings grew, roads formed, and lights began to twinkle. "We built that city," Anderson explained, "using the same technology your empire dreams of capturing. We can reshape matter, fold space, and manipulate time itself. We could have built this anywhere, including in the heart of your empire." Stone sank into his chair. "Why? Why show us this?" "Because," Thompson said, her voice kind but firm, "you needed to understand. Earth isn't hiding from the galaxy out of fear. We hide because this power in the wrong hands or given too soon could destroy everything. We choose isolation because we must be the guardians, not the conquerors." "How do we get back?" Stone whispered. "You already are back," Anderson said with a smile. Stone looked out the viewport again. Somehow, they were once more at the edge of Earth's solar system. Not a single instrument had registered the movement. "Go home, High Commander," Thompson said. "Tell your council what you've seen. And remember, Earth's isolation protects you, not us. We will always watch, always guard, and always hope that one day you'll be ready to understand what we've learned about power and responsibility." As the fleet's systems returned to normal, Stone stared at the distant blue planet that had just shown them how small the Empire really was. He had come to teach Earth a lesson about power. Instead, Earth had taught him one. Dr. Marcus Wells stood in the center of an empty room aboard Earth's orbital station, trying to process what he was seeing. The walls themselves seemed alive, shifting between transparent and opaque as if they were made of living crystal. Through them, he could see Earth below, a blue jewel wrapped in swirling white clouds. "It's a lot to take in, isn't it?" Admiral Thompson asked, walking into the room. She had invited him here after the fleet's return, the first Imperial citizen ever allowed on an Earth facility. "How?" Marcus gestured at the walls. How does any of this work? Thompson smiled. That's not the real question you want to ask, is it? Marcus took a deep breath. Why did you stay hidden? With this level of technology, you could have helped so many worlds. Walk with me, Thompson said, leading him down a corridor. As they walked, the walls showed images from human history, wars, disasters, but also moments of triumph and discovery. 300 years ago, she explained, humanity made a breakthrough. We didn't just advance our technology. We found a completely different way of understanding reality. Space, time, energy. They weren't what we thought they were. They entered another room, this one showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light marked different civilizations. We could have conquered everything, Thompson continued. We could have ruled the galaxy, reshaped worlds to our will. But then we saw something remarkable. The map zoomed in on a young civilization, showing its development over time. We watched species after species grow, develop, face challenges, and overcome them. We realized that giving them our technology would be like giving a child a weapon. Not because they were bad, but because some things need to be learned, not given. Marcus watched as the map showed hundreds of occasions where Earth had quietly intervened, deflecting asteroids, stopping natural disasters, preventing wars. So instead of conquering, he said slowly, you chose to protect, to be guardians. Yes, Thompson nodded. We maintain our isolation not out of fear or pride, but because we understand the responsibility that comes with power. The Empire sees our warnings as a challenge. They're actually a shield, protecting you from power you're not ready for. A new image appeared, showing the Imperial fleet's recent attempt to attack Earth. We brought your fleet to Andromeda, not to scare you, but to show you how much you still have to learn, how much room there is to grow. Marcus turned to face her. The Empire won't accept this easily. They're used to being the most powerful force in the galaxy. Thompson's smile was gentle. Are they? Or do they just think they are because we let them believe it? Look. The room filled with images of threats Earth had quietly eliminated over the centuries. Hostile alien species far more advanced than the Empire, cosmic phenomena that could have destroyed whole sectors, dangers the Empire never even knew existed. We've been the galaxy's guardians for centuries, Thompson explained, letting civilizations grow, protecting them from threats they couldn't handle, and hoping that one day they'll be ready to understand. Ready for what? Marcus asked. Ready to learn what we learned. That true power isn't about control. It's about responsibility, about knowing when not to use your strength. Marcus looked back at Earth through the living walls. Will we ever be ready? That's up to you, Thompson said. We'll keep watching, keep protecting, and keep hoping. And when you are ready, truly ready, we'll be here. As Marcus watched the sun rise over Earth's horizon, he finally understood. Earth hadn't banned the Empire out of fear or hatred. They had done it out of love. The kind of love that knows sometimes the best help is letting others find their own way. He just hoped he could make the Empire understand what he had learned here. In this room with living walls, watching the sunrise over humanity's hidden garden. The Imperial Council chamber was silent as High Commander Stone finished his report. The massive screens behind him showed recordings from their fleet's encounter with Earth, including their brief journey to Andromeda. No one spoke for several long minutes. Finally, an old council member named David Clark stood up. So, we've been living in a protected garden all this time, like children. No, Dr. Marcus Wells said, stepping forward. Like a civilization growing at its own pace, he had spent the last week on Earth's station, learning things that had changed his view of the universe forever. Earth showed us their power not to humiliate us, Marcus continued, but to help us understand why they choose to stay hidden. He pressed a button, and new images appeared on the screens, pictures from his time on the Earth station. They've been protecting us from threats we couldn't even imagine, he explained. Not because we're weak, but because they want us to grow stronger on our own. Stone nodded slowly. His encounter with Earth had changed him. They could have conquered us centuries ago. Instead, they chose to be our guardians. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members were angry, others fascinated, but all were struggling to accept this new reality. Their empire, which they had thought was the height of civilization, was actually just one of many young species being quietly protected by Earth. Admiral Thompson's hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. Unlike before, she wasn't there to warn or demonstrate power. She was there to offer something new. "Your empire stands at a crossroads," she said, looking around the chamber. "You can continue trying to force your way into Earth's sphere, or you can choose a different path." "What path?" asked Council Member Mary White. "Partnership," Thompson smiled. "Not as equals yet. You're not ready for our technology. But as students, perhaps, we're willing to share our knowledge gradually, helping you grow at a pace that won't harm your development." Marcus stepped forward again. "Earth has offered to make me their official liaison to the Empire. I can help bridge our civilizations, learning from them while helping us develop safely." The council members looked at each other. Centuries of being the most powerful force they knew made it hard to accept being in the role of student, but the memory of their fleet's recent lesson was still fresh. High Commander Stone stood. "Earth has shown us two things: power beyond our imagination, and wisdom in how they use it. They could rule us, but instead they protect us. They could destroy us, but instead they teach us." He turned to Thompson's hologram. "I vote we accept their offer." One by one, the council members voted, some grudgingly, some eagerly, but in the end, the decision was unanimous. The Empire would accept Earth's guidance. "A wise choice," Thompson said. "Dr. Wells will be our voice here. Through him, we'll begin sharing knowledge at a pace you can handle safely. And perhaps in time, your empire will join us as guardians of younger civilizations." As the meeting ended, Marcus looked out at the capital city. Somewhere in the streets below, a child was probably looking up at the stars, dreaming of space. Thanks to Earth's protection, that child would grow up in a universe that was safer than they knew, watched over by guardians they couldn't see. "It's a lot of responsibility," Stone said, walking up beside him. Marcus nodded. "Being a student or a teacher?" "Both," Stone replied. "Earth is trusting us to learn wisely, and one day we'll have to decide how to use that knowledge." "That's why they chose isolation," Marcus said, "not to keep power from us, but to let us learn how to use it properly." He smiled at the stars above. "We thought we were the empire that ruled the galaxy. Turns out we're just one class in a much bigger school." And somewhere out there, Earth was watching, as it always had, guardian of 1,000 growing civilizations, waiting for the day when its children would be ready to join them among the stars.